Hey guys, I'm back, and what I wanted to do now is I wanted to clear up a lot of confusion out there. And by confusion, I mean people that are have this misguided conception that if a person is aware, specifically a white person, if they're aware of racism, if they're aware of injustice, and they claim to be fighting against it, that you should just give them your full confidence and just trust them to do the right thing. That is the biggest mistake you can possibly make. Um, you have to understand that white people, whether they admit to being racist or not, or even admit to being anti racist, have a psychological and financial interest in maintaining the status quo, which is white supremacy. And by white supremacy, to go even further, white domination of every human activity. So this brings me to today. I didn't want to stretch this out too long, but I just wanted to clear it up because I once was, like many people of color out there. I went to a mostly white schools. Um, I learned how to speak in a way that you could not tell I wasn't white on the phone or if you weren't looking at me directly. Um, I adopted ways and habits of the subdivisions of the people I lived around here. I did experience a lot of racism in school, and I will share those in later videos. But I was under the impression that if a white person was nice, if they claimed not to be racist, that I could trust them and see him as a brother or a sister. But I'm going to explain to you why that you have to be conscious that uh, there's social pressures for white people to maintain white supremacy, and every single white person has been indoctrinated to racist beliefs and to believe in white supremacy, regardless if they admit it to you or not. Um, in this video, you'll notice I have a screenshot of a YouTube, the COWS program, which I highly recommend if you are non-white and seeking to understand how the system of white supremacy works to listen to. Gus is the host on there. He is a victim of white supremacy, a black man. Um, I was a little shocked when I first started listening to the programming, just because I thought he might have been a little harsh. But after listening to several episodes, and also just evidencing observations in the social climate that we're in, where a person like Donald Trump has been elected to the highest office in the land, not by the majority of the vote, but by the Electoral College, that Gus had a point in what he was saying. And I'm not going to go into too much of what he says, but you can listen to it for yourself. But here's one of the guests, Jessica Pettit. She does diversity work and claims to be an anti-racist. This is her first interview, which she was, fairly candid. She gave up a lot of information that you just typically do not hear from white people. Very candid about views that white people hold, including herself, claiming to be an anti-racist person, how they use racism to their advantage, um, to benefit themselves, how they do have a financial and psychological interest in maintaining it, and that it is they can't even imagine a world without it, honestly. And that's another thing. Whenever you listen to a white person, and you need to ask several questions, which I'll put on another video, just to determine where their mindset is and if you can actually trust them or not. But Jessica, one of the revelations that she revealed about being a so-called anti-racist white person is she said she questions other white people that do this work, what their motives are, because she acknowledges that you can still do anti-racist work and still function as a racist in the greater society. And by a racist, I mean somebody who consciously, unconsciously, directly, indirectly mistreats a person because they're not white. That's what I define as a racist. She feels that you can function that way and still do so-called anti or anti-discrimination work. She also acknowledges that this technically could be construed as a hobby, meaning that she has nothing on the line by continuing to do this work. Meaning that if she were to stop it, she would actually be rewarded by the greater society. And that it's not like she was born a person of color where she doesn't have a choice. She has a choice to stop doing this at any time the pressure becomes too great. And feels that that could be a possibility. So that is one major way reason, excuse me, why you should be suspicious of anybody doing claiming to do anti-discrimination or anti-racist work, is that they can stop at any time because there's nothing holding them to this. There's no phenotypical feature that's going to, makes them a fixture within the oppressed group where they don't have a choice but to fight against injustice. They can easily be co-opted to practicing full time as opposed to possibly part time. Um, Another thing was you have to be you have to be aware that when they claim to be doing anti-racist work, and you ask them, when do you see racism, white people voluntarily stopping racism, and ask them when do you think that would happen or what would it take for that to happen, you want to kind of get their answer. A lot of times, like with Jessica and others, they'll say they don't see it happening within their lifetime. That, to me, that's very telling, because you have to wonder, is it because they truly don't see it happening because it's so entrenched in the minds of so many white people that keep it totally hidden and close to their chest? They don't really vocalize it in open company. Or you don't want it to happen in your lifetime, and your intent is to make things nicer and easier for victims of this white supremacist system, but you don't want to see it totally dissolved while you're still alive. So you have to kind of question that and wonder, what exactly are they thinking when they make claims like that? But the main thing is, you have to understand, they don't have anything holding them to this work. They didn't sign a contract with $1 million on the line if they stop participating in anti-discrimination or anti-racist work. They can easily be co-opted back into the culture to start practicing racism full time, and they understand that, and they actually believe that. Part of being white in a white supremacist society is they feel disconnected from the rest of the world and only connected to other white people. They've done tests to show that when a white person sees a person of color, especially black people, but a person of color in pain, that part of the brain that would normally register empathy does not light up. So that you need to be cautious of. I mean, if a person sees you in pain and they don't relate to your pain, is that somebody you feel you can truly trust? So it's just something to consider. So I highly recommend listening to this episode, and I will include a link below the video. But I just wanted to point out that you always need to be suspicious of people claiming to fight injustice, especially when it benefits them. It seems a little disingenuous, but if they're that moral, then they shouldn't have a problem answering any questions you might have with regards to racism and injustice. If you sense any hesitation, then that may show that they're not truly committed to ending it. So that's the end of this video for now. See you on the next one.